Alrighty, everybody, it's Millennial Prepster here, and I'm here with Nick from NicktritionTV. How are you doing, Nick?
Doing good, man. Thanks.
Awesome. So I really excited that I get to talk to you today. So for what I'm doing with these, this is everyday preparedness and sustainability. It's like a little podcast I'm looking to start. And so you're obviously somebody that I've been wanting to talk to you for a little bit. I know you talked to Carnival, and I've been on Carnival's channel a couple times and stuff. And I think what I like about you is just the fact that you're probably the most level-headed, reasonable vegan. I'm sure there's others out there, but I've seen the trolls on your channel, no doubt. You know what I mean? A lot of it's disgusting personally. And I think you handle yourself very adult-like. And I think you always mention it goes just back to, age and wisdom and stuff like that. But I can definitely appreciate that. So just kind of introduce yourself.
That. Yeah. So my name's Nick, 31 years old. I'm a runner. I'm a vegan. And yeah, I just like eating healthy foods and living the vegan lifestyle, plant-based lifestyle, and promoting that and sharing my lifestyle on like Instagram and YouTube, and just trying to help people become more aware of their food choices and lifestyle choices, and how it can benefit themselves, how it can benefit others, animals, and the planet as well. And I'm just really compassionate about sharing that message and helping people, just do better, whatever that is.
Right. And I'll be the first to say that everything that I've seen, you seem very genuine. So I'll be the first one to say I don't doubt that for 1 second.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm just like everyone else, just living life,
Yeah, and I think this conversation, I think we're going to be very similar, but I think there's going to be some interesting. I think how we go about things are going to be, different. But I think, like I said, you do seem extremely genuine, and I see that in the consistency of your content, which is really refreshing, because I feel like sometimes we go online and we see these raw vegan activists, and I feel like for them it's almost, I know you've mentioned it, but it's almost like these raw vegans go on these fad type vegan lifestyles.
A little too extreme, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So you had I know we kind of talked about this before we aired, but you just changed the name of your channel, or did you have a lot more content up more than 5 months ago? Like, how did that whole thing segue?
Yeah, I actually started my channel in 2013.
Oh wow!
Right around the time I became vegan, I thought it'd be a good way to share the message, and I probably had about 300 videos or so, and then I just stopped making videos. I just life got in the way, and I was just doing different things, and I was never really like consistent with uploading videos. I'm still not, but then I just kind of deleted all those videos because I just wasn't happy with them anymore. I was like, you know what, that's like, a lot of influence that I had over the years from other people. I felt like I was, not being 100% myself, but just like, just didn't want those videos up there no more. So I just took them down and just started trying to be myself more, I guess.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I had like I said, before I had this channel, I had a channel, and it was just, like I said, I used to full-time RV. I did that for many years. And so I kind of start, it's the same way. But then I guess what happens is, I'm sure you probably know this better than most people, you get a lot of followers, and then they, you go from talking about the things you want to talk about to people genuinely looking to you for influence, and like, well, can you do a video? Can you do a video on this? Can you do a video on that? And I felt like it went from, a labor of love to, I felt obligated to my followers to, they want to know about this, this solar product, or they want to know about this, or they want to know about that. So I felt like it was almost like I was running around, honey-do list, almost, so to speak, So
yeah, I see. That's what happens, man. That's what happens on YouTube and social media. That's how it is.
Yeah, and I told myself when I started this new channel up that I wasn't going to do that, and I was just going to focus on, on what I wanted to focus on. So that's good. So what started you to be like, what, I'm getting back into the game? I know you'd made some mentions to the carnivore diet, but what really?
Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, like for when since I've started YouTube in 2013, I watched YouTube pretty much every day. Like I love the platform. I love watching other people. I love hearing what people have to say and different opinions and, perspectives on life. And recently, I guess last year at some point, I started seeing all the carnivore videos, and I guess the whole like anti-vegan movement going on YouTube and stuff. And that kind of started to like upset me. And like, so I was like, you know what, I want to get back on YouTube. And I like being funny sometimes. I like not being serious all the time, but like just.
I love your wigs.
Yeah, thanks. So that's one of my old videos from when I first started. So yeah, the whole anti-vegan movement, the carnivores, and I don't know, I just think there's a lot of, I don't know if you could say lies on either side or just like misinformation or like, maybe we just don't know and there's just two sides to every story. So it's just tough, like, but just like from my side and like seeing animals suffer and what we're doing to the planet, people's health, I just, wanted to start making videos again.
No, and like I said, I'm glad I'm talking to you because what you just mentioned are exactly the only thing I really want to talk about, to be honest with you. So I don't really want to. I mean, we can dive into some other things, but the big things I want to talk about are kind of just what you advocate for in general, because I feel like when we're talking about this, I feel like that's the biggest. Those are the biggest issues. Because I know you've mentioned sustainability numerous times. You've mentioned the earth. You've mentioned ethics, and I think that these are building blocks of society, whether we're talking about diet, capital punishment, how we choose to live our life, the friends we choose to have, the decisions we choose to make. I feel like they're all based upon those tenets of, of ethics and sustainability and all that stuff. So that's kind of what I want to.
Awesome. Yeah, man.
Talk about. Okay. So the first, so kind of with me, I don't want to say similar, but how you kind of had a carnivore backlash. I definitely had a vegan backlash. So I started to put up pieces of videos, and you can go back through my channel. You can see they're pretty old as well.
Okay.
But yeah, I essentially, I took out, because I had a lot of content towards the end of that channel in regards to just like very opinion based kind of stuff. And, and everybody has an opinion, especially on YouTube. So I kind of just want to stick to, kind of the factual mechanics of RVing essentially. And if you go through, you'll kind of see what I'm talking about. But one of the videos was I was off grid. I was on a border town there in Southern California, close to Boulevard area. You can Google it. It's right there on the border. And so I was off grid, and I was cooking some chicken, pasture raised, like it was basically a backyard farm is where I got this chicken from. And so I was cooking it using 100% solar, have solar generator, because like I said, I was completely off grid. Nice. And so I was basically going over the Nuva Wave stovetop, which it's solar based and it uses magnets to heat up real metallic
that's cool
stoves essentially. So that's what I was doing, and I next thing you know, I had all these people called vegans all over me, and I knew what veganism was, sure. Especially you go to San Diego, Los Angeles, like you definitely see these people, but it was the first time in my life where I felt like it was like me against this angry mob of how horrible you're hurting the environment. Haven't you seen documentary this, documentary that? And I'm just like, whoa, I have no idea what's going on here. So I went through and I watched Dominion, and I watched I've seen every vegan documentary, every single one of them. And so I'll be honest with you, I was left very confused. And so hopefully you can kind of break it down. I get and I understand, wanting to help animals and ethics and stuff like that, and don't take this the wrong way, I also understand, kind of reality, especially from a minimalist standpoint. So sometimes I see the narrative and I see the inclination to want to help, but I see the pathway in which some people take kind of is confusing. So give me your argument for veganism. I know you've talked about you couldn't do it yourself and this, that, and the other, but what's really the core tenets of why you, or why, not asking you to speak for the vegan community here, but yeah. what's kind of the bottom line? Like what's the bottom sector for you?
Yeah. Wow. So it does pretty much come down to what I've said. Like I have empathy for animals, I guess. And, when I look into their eyes, and especially when you watch like the footage you're talking about before, all the documentaries and stuff. But like when I look into the eyes of an animal, I see someone who can suffer, who feels pain. You know, they have emotions and feelings, and you know, I think they're just like us in the ways that matter. And you know, they bleed just like us. Like there's us and the animals. You know, we're animals as well, and we're just a different species. And you know, at the end of the day, I started thinking about stuff once I first saw factory farming footage. Before I saw it for the first time, obviously I've never seen it before, so I didn't know where the food I was eating was coming from, and I never thought of animals in that way. I actually wasn't even like an animal person. I didn't even like dogs or anything like that. But when I first saw animals being mistreated or how they were treated, it didn't sit well with me, and I was like, I would never treat an animal like that or do that to an animal. I would probably never even kill an animal, to be honest. I never hunted. I've never, you know, slit the throat of a pig or a cow or chicken or even gone fishing. So, and I wouldn't do it myself. So I wasn't comfortable purchasing animal products anymore, I guess I would say.
Right.
And I even like thought about, I went through like, you know, maybe I'll only eat wild animals, you know, deer, you know, venison, or, you know,
Right.
I did the whole cage free range, grass fed, organic stuff. I did that for, you know, a few months. Like I've thought about other ways to eat animal foods, but essentially I always thought about it like, especially when I learned about the nutrition side of it and stuff, that, you know, it's not I felt like it wasn't necessary. I didn't need it to be healthy. I enjoyed eating plant-based, so it was just easy. For me, it was like a no-brainer that, you know, and I thought like, it wasn't like it was easy. Like I thought like, oh, I'm never going to eat, you know, pizza again. Or what if I travel the world? What's it going to, like, I thought of every situation, you know, and at the end of the day, like if I don't have to eat animals, then I just don't feel comfortable doing it.
See, and let me be the first one to tell you, I absolutely 110% agree with you that, you know, animals do have sentience, right? I can tell you, I'm a permaculturist, right? I'm actually a permaculturist from the blue zones, so I'm very familiar with, you know, blue zone ideology, permaculture, the tenets of permaculture. This is a lifestyle that I live, and I can tell you without equivocation that animals do have the capacity to suffer. I don't think anybody, you know, now at what point do they suffer, and what do they actually feel, and what process are going through their minds as far as, can they go through the seven different steps of grief? Probably not. I don't believe that. But can they feel pain, and can they suffer? There's no doubt about that, right? I think we both agree on that. And you say that, I guess the opinion from, not, I want to say opinion, your truth is that since we don't have to do it in 2019, I've heard you say that a couple of times, why would we, right? So, and I know Carnival asked you this question before, and I want to ask you the same question, just differently. Okay. I know Carnival asked you, where did you think your food came from, right? Back when you were eating animals, and just if you could just touch up on that real quick, because I think that's big for what my next question is going to be.
Well, I never saw the footage. I just thought, you know, I guess what I thought. I can't really tell you 100%, but I just thought, you know, I knew it was an animal, right? You know, it was a chicken, or you're eating a cow. But I've never seen the process. I just thought they were on a farm, I guess. I didn't know about factory farming till like 2011 or 12, whatever it was, when I was like 23 or something, 24, 23. And so, yeah, I mean, I knew what meat comes from an animal, obviously, but I just didn't know about factory farming. But like I said, I wasn't an animal person. I never thought about animal rights or veganism or vegetarianism. I just ate the food that I grew up on, basically, you know, what I was raised on, you know, I was eating a lot of fast food at the time, and I wasn't doing my own cooking. I was still living at home. So my mom and, you know, my family was doing all the cooking. So at that time, you know, I was just living the way I knew.
Absolutely. And I want to say that I agree with you also on the position, the American Dietetic Association, that a vegetarian and or vegan lifestyle is appropriate for all individuals in all stages of life. I totally think that, for maybe not for everybody, but I think in general, I think given the right parameters, it's possible. What do you think makes that possible?
I think we're meant to eat plants. Like,
I mean, I think it's obvious that we can't do this off plants alone. There has to be some kind of supplementation, thrown in there. So I guess my question is, do you think it was possible to be a vegan in the 1800s, so to speak?
I'm sorry, you're fading out there. What were you saying?
Do you think it was possible to be a vegan in the 1800s, 1700s?
Oh, probably not. I'm not 100% sure, but
So
I don't think that matters. I don't think that matters, but
well, the reason why I say it matters is because the reason why you're vegan is the same reason why I actually eat animal products, and the reason is, if we look at it realistically, if we look at the horrors of wanting to create the best environment and sustainability, I don't see how you can do it in a vegan light, to be honest with you. Because if you look at the food that we buy at the grocery stores every day, and I know I've kind of talked to Bobby's perspective on this. When I look at what vegans eat, right? When I look at your plant-based products that you have, like what I eat in a day, what I see is I see plant products that were derived from all different crop zones from all over the world, on the backs of child labor, using petrochemicals, using oil to transport, using plastic, degrading the forest and environment. That's what I see when I see, a nice, vegan poke bowl, so to speak. You know what I mean? So I guess that's where you're coming from, wanting to hurt less animals. I'm coming from the same token. However, I don't see how the idea of a plant-based consumerism model actually helps anything. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I think it does help. I think most of the crops we grow, right, go to feeding livestock when we could just be feeding ourselves directly.
How so?
Because we could just eat the plants that we grow, the crops.
Well, I know that's funny because have you ever seen animal? Are you familiar with animal agriculture at all? And I think it's horrible, by the way.
Am I familiar with animal agriculture, you said?
Yeah, or how it works, the kind of the ins and outs of it. I'm familiar just because of where I was raised and where I come from, but I feel like a lot of people aren't, especially when we look at these facts. Because you're right. If you look at, so let me give you an example, right? So let's take corn, for example. Let's take peanuts. Let's take wheat. So when you look at an actual bag of feed, right, you're going to see grain byproducts, corn byproducts, peanut byproducts. You're going to see these grain byproducts. So what happens is the harvester comes by, destroys everything. The ground is poisoned, X, Y, and Z. So all these horrific things happen. Well, when you look at corn, you have the husk, you have the outer shell of the corn. Same thing with the peanut. So anything that can be used for human consumption is used for human consumption. And then all the byproducts, the shell, the husk, the exterior, that is all taken and used as well for animals. So the non sequiturs, the stuff that is not human grade, yeah, absolutely, we'll go to dog food. We'll go to, we'll go to cows. So you're using one piece of corn has different parts of it that goes different places. And when people use that statistic, that's what they're throwing out there. They're not using the human grade stuff that they could sell for a high dollar. They're using the husks. They're using the shell. They're using the parts of it that can't be used for human consumption, and they're giving that to livestock. And I feel like people think that these cows are getting this high quality grain product when really they're just getting the non edible parts of that plant, which they can actually use. Because if you look at what cows can do, and the stomachs and stuff like that, where they actually ferment the food down and then digest it, they're built differently. So they can take those non parts that we can't consume, and they can actually make it into something, which I think feeding grain to animals I'm not for it. I don't think you need to, but it's something to remember when you're looking at those statistics. Is that something you were familiar with?
I guess I never heard it put in that way. I mean, I didn't think the animals were eating high quality crops or anything, but I'm just, from what I hear, the percentages of, crops grown in America or wherever go to livestock. But even when I think about it, is like we shouldn't be feeding animals to kill them and eat them anyway. We should just be eating a plant-based diet.
No, I understand. Yeah, I get the plant-based diet. I'm just, as we're breaking this down, I feel like we have to be, and it comes down to, permaculture tenets. We have to be honest with what we're saying. Like I said, I can totally agree that animals feel pain, they have sentience, and all the that in general. I also believe in biology. I know when I die, I expect many organisms to come and eat me and break me down. Just
when
the same
die,
as
not when you're killed, though, right?
well, if I'm killed, it's the same thing.
It's the
no
same
matter
thing,
how I
but-
die, no matter how I die, whether I get attacked by a mountain lion while I'm out hunting versus, I mean, I accept
these
biology and nature for what it is.
They're just dying from natural causes like we would.
Well, I mean, me getting, you know, killed in a car accident wasn't natural. Me having a mountain lion jump on my back isn't exactly, you know, but that's the, you know, when I step out into the world, those are the things that, you know, that could possibly happen. But I mean, either way. So
yeah,
when we're looking,
I agree, yeah.
And when we're looking at, you know, when we're looking at, I totally, I agree. I don't think factory farming is all that great.
Yeah,
mainly,
I think all of us agree with that. Like factory farming,
and not even necessarily from a moral standpoint, just the quality of the food you're getting. You know what I mean? But I also feel the same way with the plants that I get at the grocery store. I feel the same way with GMO. As angry as you would be over factory farming,
you know, I don't think the system that's in place has anything to do with veganism. You know, like going vegan is a totally ethical, you know, thing that has to do with animals. As far as like the food system and everything else, those are steps that we have to do better, you know. But veganism isn't the answer. We have to find answers other places, you know. We still have a lot of work to do as far as that goes.
So I guess if that's the case, then why do I see no steps from, you know, vegan activists or veganism in general in that direction? I mean, everybody that
because veganism is an animal rights movement. It's not a environmental movement, or, you know.
Well, I mean, that to me, that part's evident. But why is, I guess, if the tenets of veganism, right, are to produce the less overall harm for the environment and animals, why do I see? Well, why do the actions of vegans?
Well, it's just the animals. The veganism has nothing to do with the environment or health, really.
No, I get that, but if you wanted to help animals, right? Why would you go to the store and buy food that is on the backs of children and dead animals?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we have to. I don't know what the stats are, but 90%, 99% of people go to grocery stores. So that's what we have in place now. You know, there's not everybody goes to farmers markets or can grow their own garden. So like, we have to go to grocery stores, and the best choice, the most ethical choice, would be to eat plants and not animals.
Well, okay, so I guess you'd have to explain how. And I guess from my perspective, right, I don't claim to be animal rights activist at all. I don't claim to do anything that has to do with animal. I mean, obviously I raise my own animals, of course. But the fact that if you look at my overall,
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. But if you look at my overall, you know, body count, I know Joe Carbstrom's talked about it. If I look at my overall body count of animals that die because of my personal decisions, it's actually a lot less than what a vegan's would be. So I guess my question is, if a vegan stance is strictly on animal rights, and, you know, what's the number? What's the qualifying number that's okay? Because if I were to say, hey, I'm doing something to
there is no number.
Help X, Y, and Z, you know what I mean? I should be able to see it. There should be no reason why this plant-based omnivore, you know,
we don't have
blue zone.
I don't know if we have numbers. Like, I don't even think you have numbers, and I don't even believe the whole combine. What do you call it? The machines that you guys are saying kills, you know, all these animals for raising crops, because I just don't think it's the case that all these rodent, you know, mice or birds or whatever, you got insects, you know, I just don't see billions and billions of these animals being killed for crops. And I can tell you that. Yeah. Because I just think, like, if a bird's in the way of a combine harvester, that it's going to get out the way. Like, same thing with rodents, maybe not insects, but more sentient beings like the, you know, squirrels or mice or whatever. They're going to get out the way of these machines coming along. I can't even walk up to a squirrel or a deer or any kind of animal, not even a cat sometimes, without them running away before you even get close to them. So I can't see something different. I can't see them just lying on the floor when a machine comes by to plow the crops.
Well, I mean, if you look at motor vehicle accidents where pedestrian versus motor vehicle, I mean, we have millions of those a year. So, I mean, I can see that part. But let's take the harvesters out of it. If you look at PubMed, you know, the NCBI, they have tons of studies that just pesticides alone kills hundreds of millions of birds in the U.S. a year alone. You know what I mean? So when you're talking about where your food comes from, I mean, you just, I mean, you have to be honest. Like when I kill a rabbit, I'm honestly telling you that, I am taking the life of a sentient animal that wants to live. When you buy, a bell pepper from the grocery store, you have to admit that you are buying into a system that uses child labor. To 70% of all child labor is in plant agriculture. Hundreds of millions of sentient animals that wanted to live had to die through the harvesting process, through the packaging process, through the gathering process. Tons of plastic are used. Like when I look at my food, I know that it's all grown within my crop zone. When I look at a vegan's food, I see quinoa from South America. I see strawberries from Chile. I see literally a bowl of plant-based foods that literally have come from all over the world that require tons of petrochemicals per calorie to get it to where it is currently on your plate. So when you're looking at what's sustainable, when I can make a legit argument that, my lifestyle has less of an impact, it makes the whole idea that veganism is there for the animals kind of a non sequitur. It doesn't seem like
you would have to argue that with someone else who's more educated on that, because I'm not really educated.
But can you see, like when you look at your food and you realize that this was shipped from all over the world, does that at all change anything in your ethical standpoint?
I mean, as far as I'm aware, the numbers are for a plant-based diet. So as far as I'm aware, like a plant-based diet is still more sustainable than what we're doing now. And I'm not saying what we're doing now is perfect. I think it needs to change, but I still don't think that it justifies us breeding over 65 billion, and the number could be higher. It could be 100 billion or whatever animals a year. And that's just land animals into existence just to kill them and eat them.
So what's your definition of sustainable, I guess? Because I think we might have two different definitions of sustainable.
I guess the definition would be something that you could do for a lifetime, basically something that, something that you can sustain without it. If it's not sustainable, then it's going to pretty much ruin your health in the short term, or the environment, or, something like that.
Sure. So my definition is kind of similar. For me, I take sustainability from, I guess, the permaculture based ideology. So anything that's long lived, that includes biodiversity, and can be done on a local level. Essentially, I don't see how. I mean, when I think of sustainability, I look at something that can be done locally. I can't think of one crop zone where you can be a vegan. I don't think there's one crop zone out there where you can be fully a sustainable vegan.
And that might be the case, dude. And that kind of sucks, unfortunately. I mean, I don't know if I ever see a world where everyone's going to live locally. Maybe, and hopefully, you can help us get there or something like that. But like, I'm not aware of it.
It would require you not to be vegan. You know what I mean? Because when I look at supplements, I don't see that as sustainable. It requires tons of petrochemicals. It causes, you need lots of electricity. You need a lab. You need so many things in order to get the vital, nutrients that you would need to be vegan, which is nothing wrong with that. Like I said, I think that, if you want to be vegan, don't at all think that I don't think that that's okay. But I guess the reason why I'm pressing you on this is because of your Costco analogy when you're talking about carnists. And trust me, carnists don't like me either. I'll tell you one thing. I've been trying to get a sit-down conversation with Daphne Reloaded for months now, and she won't talk to me. So,
really?
Yeah, she's not. But for whatever reason, I think I question her. I think plants are good. I think plants are good. I'm not going to be one of those people that tells you that plants are going to kill you or they're there to poison you. Like, obviously, if you have too many oxalates, that can damage your system. But I don't think that plants are poisonous to you, like some people. But your Costco analogy, if you're talking about, well, what's so natural about getting your meat from Costco? I mean, I'm using your own. I'm asking you. So what's so natural about GMO, pesticide-laced, petrochemical grown plant-based foods? You know what I mean? Like it's the same question that I'm throwing back at you, because if we're going to be consistent.
So I want to eat plant foods, and unfortunately, the only way I can get plant foods is if I go to a grocery store, and like I try to buy organic if I can, farmers markets in the spring and summer and stuff. But like my only options are if I don't want to eat animals, I still have to go to a grocery store and get my produce.
No, I'm not trying to discount that. But even with organic, you're talking about tons of animal products that have to be used.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not. I can't tell you the numbers. I'm not going to deny that, eating crops or eating a plant-based diet isn't going to have, animals aren't going to be killed in the process from whatever. So, there's nothing I could do. I guess that you would have to admit that, right? But like, it's kind of like you said about getting hit you could cross the street and get hit by a car, like that, us having to eat, we're not doing anything, I guess, I don't want to say wrong or like bad, but like by eating, by growing crops, if other animals are being killed, that's just part of it, I guess, for now, unfortunately.
So and I can agree. I mean, obviously, as somebody that eats animals, I have to agree to the fact that you have to have some death, right? Some death is going to happen in the system, and I totally agree with you. I guess the question is, if we aren't able to limit it, and you limit it more than what you can on a vegan-based system, how does that make a carnivore bad, or a person like me, an omnivore, bad? Personally, when I look at carnivore versus omnivore, I mean, you would have to explain to me what's the difference between me and the carnivore that gets his food, from local sources. I mean, besides the fact that he may say vegetables are bad, if you have a carnivore that says I just like to eat meat, like, I know you've used the term like brainwashing stuff, but what's the real difference between a carnivore and an omnivore, honestly?
The real difference?
Yeah, I mean, is there a difference?
No, just that you eat more plants.
Right? So there is no difference between me and a carnivore. And I've told carnists that a lot of them don't like that answer, but there is no difference. Just like with veganism, I mean, you have real vegans and you have not real vegans. And maybe you can that was one of the questions I want to ask you. What's the difference between a real vegan and a not real vegan?
I mean, I don't know if you can be like a real, I mean, if you go by the definition, it's
well, I'm just asking because I saw your videos about like ex-vegans aren't real vegans, so it's like, and I've seen your comments.
Oh yeah, because as far as that goes, like if you are vegan, if you like, you don't eat animals, so like if they really are having these health issues that they talk about, I think there's other options that don't involve eating animals that they could have went through. Okay. Most of them don't even see doctors or anything. I just like, first of all, I don't think diet has everything to do with your health. I think there's other factors that could be playing a part.
Correct.
Yeah.
100% correct.
So I feel like, they could have, if they were vegan, they would have stuck with that and just figured out what is really wrong with them, or,
But how does that make them? How does that make them no longer a real vegan, though? So I guess here's a hypothetical. Let's say you decided to become. Let's say you ate a fish. I mean, I believe that you're vegan. Trust me. I think that your merit in the vegan community speaks for itself. Just the people that you have that you talk to, the people that talk to you by name. I know without a shadow of a doubt, you are a real vegan. But if you were to eat a fish, would that take away your real vegan status forever? Like, is your street cred gone?
No, not if you did it once, or but if it's something you make like a weekly thing, I would.
You see what I mean? And that's I mean, I don't care, but it's kind of a question I had, because I know there's a lot of internal fighting with vegans on many topics, whether what's real vegan, what's plant-based, I guess
if you're choosing to eat the fish every week, but it's really not the thing that you that you need to be doing. There's just like, if you're vegan but you eat fish once a week, just because you want to, then I would say no, you're not really vegan. But if you want to be vegan and for some reason it just happened, I mean, there's nothing to prove this, but if for some reason you want to be vegan and eat fish once a week because you need to, then maybe you could still be vegan, right? I don't know.
So let me give you an example, because this goes into my realm of blue zones, right? This is we both probably have a different interpretation of blue zone. I think yours is more based upon a political, social media type understanding. But I know I have a lot of family members and people in Puerto Rico. Give you Puerto Rico, for example. So I'm from Puerto Rican, Japanese descent. So from Puerto Rico, the Caribbean island, they are majority. I don't want to say vegan just because they do eat fish, but the idea is these people are on a fixed income. They eat majority plants. They live in a great crop zone that's tropical. But instead of getting their DHA, aminos, B12, and having to buy a supplement that's shipped to the island, they eat bacalao, which is a native grown fish, once a week.
Yeah, I mean, I think
realistically,
that's
that would cause way less environmental impact than buying the supplement. Would you agree or would you not agree?
yeah, I think that's pretty cool that if they're pretty much vegan, but they only eat the fish, whatever.
Cool.
I
So
would
what
agree.
makes them different than a carnivore who
What
also
makes that?
eats meat more regularly? What makes him different than, you know, Billy Bob Joe in Coos County, Oregon, that drops elk all the time and eats majority elk and he has asparagus every once in a while?
Environmentally, I'm not sure what the difference is, but as far as health goes, I would say there's a huge difference. The carnivore diet is completely unhealthy. I think all these people are going to fail and run into serious problems in the future. And as far as ethically goes, like they should be doing the fish maybe or oysters or, you know, some kind of like the smallest, you know, if they absolutely needed it, you would go to the least, I guess, sentient or, you know, most ethical way.
So in veganism, are there levels? Because, you know, I don't know if you heard, but this Ravana chick who got caught eating fish in Bali, she's getting kind of tore up right now. I don't know if you saw that, but I mean, is there really a big difference between? I mean, does the sentient scale really matter in veganism? Honestly,
a fish.
Your identity, you know what I mean, of what veganism is, does it really matter? And if it does, that's great because I want to segue into my.
Well, I don't know if she wants to consider her. I don't know if these people. As far
I'm
as
saying for you, like,
yeah.
From your, because you're very ethical, dude. Like I'm not. This is not trying to play a. I'm not trying to play gotcha. Like you probably one of the most honest people on the interwebs. You know that I've found so far. You're very consistent.
Yeah.
Even when you're talking about police shootings, bro, you're pretty consistent. So, so like, is there a hierarchy? Is there a hierarchy of needs of sentience that matters in vegans?
I mean, not that I'm aware. Like an official stance, I'm not sure of, but as
a person,
I mean, if I wouldn't, if I had to eat animal foods again, if somehow my health declined and you know, and the science changes and it's shown that we need to eat animals, I would go for the least sentient. Yeah, I would probably eat like oysters first, or like probably wouldn't go any farther than fish.
Okay, I mean that's fair, and I think that comes from a deep-rooted, you know, obligation that you have of eliminating suffering. And I totally, you know, I respect that. Trust me, I get not everybody can go out there with a hunting rifle and a destruction tag permit and drop an elk at 200 meters away. I get that the average person probably can't do that.
Right, for sure.
But then again, there's not enough elk in the entire world for everybody anyway, right? So we do have different types of animals. Yeah. I guess my biggest thing is, you know, as a permaculturist, I do care about the environment. I care about the environment a lot, and I do care about animals.
What?
Go ahead.
What do you think we would do if like we didn't have like grocery stores, and like if we were all like if we had all these people right now and we had to get our own food? Like, what do you think people would be?
I think
what would we do?
So you quoted Martin Luther King, right? In a video not too long ago. I want to quote a guy named Bill Mollison. Bill Mollison is one of the revolutionaries of permaculture. He was an activist. He said, the greatest change we can make is from consumption to production, even on a small scale, in our own gardens. If only 10% of us do this, there's enough for everyone. Hence the futility of revolutionaries, aka activists, who have no gardens, who depend on the very system they attack and produce words and bullets, not food and shelter. We got to change the way we think, man. If we look at World War II, the Victory Gardens, I'm sure, you know, I've done a couple of videos on this. Victory Gardens saved us in World War II. People were not going to the grocery stores to buy food. Victory Gardens produced more food than what big agriculture could produce. It doesn't require a lot. It just requires a small percentage of the population to be food conscious. Let me give you an example. Some people think that I live on a ton of property. No, I'm on a third of an acre. I have a big backyard, and I can produce all the meat I need for my family in that small area. I can. It's not hard. It's not difficult. It requires pretty much zero work on my part. I don't have to buy grains. What did I do? I was smart. I used permaculture type systems. I know that livestock required pasture-raised grass. So what did I do? I took out the stupid crabgrass that was here before. I planted pasture grass using alfalfa, timothy, sorghum, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I grow. I have a solar, all electric lawnmower, and I can pretty much small scale cut the grass, dry the grass. Next thing you know, I have pasture raised hay for my livestock. Super simple. I have a huge aquaponic system. I have a little water garden that, little pond that is a little koi pond, that I can grow catfish in. Like, I'm just taking the effects that I already have, I'm making it work for me. I have Golgi plants, I have blueberry bushes, I have a cherry tree. I have local people in the area that are really big into gardening. I mean, if you were to get involved in a gardening group, man, you would learn so much about, how to grow food and how easy it is. But I care about sustainability. That's my number one mission, right? So when I say I care about sustainability and I care about where my food comes from, I'm not just saying it. I'm doing it every day. So when I see vegans that say they care about animals, but they do nothing to do anything for animals besides consuming things from the grocery store, maybe you can see how I, kind of lift my nose and question what the actual what they're doing really is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. And I wish I could do what have a garden and do what you do, and but unfortunately I can't, and most people can't. The majority of people can't do that, So.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not saying you have to have a huge garden, but if you have a closet, you can grow all the microgreens you need for a family of 4. If you have a place for an aquarium, you can at least grow.
Let me get my wife to use our closet for a garden.
Well, it's not even garden. I mean, it's just a few trays. You don't have to use a garden. You don't have to use a closet, but anything dark. But like I said, if the idea though is that and that's the thing. If I were to go to anybody that I know and say I care about sustainability, but they can't see it, they're gonna laugh at me. I'm not gonna laugh at anybody, but I'm just saying, if you say I'm for the animals, what steps are in place? You know what I mean? It's really hard for me to if not you, but if vegans are gonna go out there saying we need to change life for animals to make it more animal friendly, and we need to care about animal suffering and this and that, but here we are on the system.
True. And I don't think the system is perfect, and I don't think veganism is perfect. And I think at the very least, we're all saying, from what I can see, is we have to start with not raising to existence to kill them and eat them at the very least. I think that's just the major part of it. I think as far as animal exploitation goes, 98% of it's in animal agriculture, and then you got the small percentage of testing on animals for products and stuff like that.
See, I don't know where you get the 98%. I think, for example, almond milk is very, very, very bad.
Well, almond milk's not almond milk isn't exploiting animals. So
you don't think so?
When you use animals as property, when you treat them as objects, as you're just making money off them, that's exploiting animals. So if I'm growing a crop for corn or soy or almonds or whatever, I'm doing that with the intention of making food for myself or growing crops. I'm not trying to exploit an animal.
Well, I'm glad you brought up intention, because I think when we talk about especially name the trait, I think intention. I think especially the way U.S. law is set up, I think intention is. I think that's a great segue or a great point that you make. So, what is unintentional about receiving government subsidies, obtaining permits to destroy wild land reservation to put up almond trees that require over 1,000 gallons of milk to produce 1 gallon of milk, to use pesticides, to get the permits to use pesticides? When you're talking about intent, there's a lot of intent to hurt animals.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with veganism, because most people who buy almond milk aren't even vegan. So like I said, this veganism isn't perfect. The system isn't perfect. So if we need to stop buying almond milk, we don't need almond milk. We don't need milk. So if you're saying almond milk's a problem or growing almonds is a problem, then we should stop growing almonds, but that's not a vegan issue. That has nothing to do with veganism.
Well, when vegans say use almond milk or alternative based milks versus, using milk in general, you're making a stance that you're saying almond milk. You know, this is okay. This is an okay practice. You know what I mean? And I agree, you don't need it, but you also don't need quinoa from South America. You don't need, you know, B12 supplements that were produced in a lab outside of FDA, you know, control and regulations, which the FDA is whatever. But you know what I mean? Like just even how things are, you know, how things are marketed and advertised. Like you don't need any of that stuff either, but you're doing it because you're doing it because you feel like you're making a difference. So what I'm saying is when we can factually prove that it's not making a huge difference.
It kind of is making a difference, because when you buy cow's milk, a cow had to be forcibly impregnated. They had to have their child taken away from them. Then we have to milk them with machines, and they get over milked, and you know they suffer. You know they're hurting. You know and then we kill them in the end. So you know that's not a process that we need. That's not something we need to do either. And that I'm more concerned about some almonds.
Well, I mean, it's not just the almonds you're talking about. Like I said, you're talking about all the animals that had to die due to the pesticide use, all the bees that have to be transported all over the place in order to self-pollinate. And I'm not even talking about cows. I mean, personally, cow or whatever, any cow product is, you know, in the grand scheme of things, especially for me, you know, I hardly eat that animal. I mean, there's lots of other ways to get milk besides just cows. Like how we think about food is you're thinking about it from a Western type sense. And I think that's probably a good thing that we start to look away from it. You know what I mean? But you're talking about an animal agriculture type world, and I think that's horrible. And I think there's lots of ways that we can, you know, incorporate animal products and still be way more, you know, environmentally friendly than you can on an all vegan diet.
Yeah, there's a way where you can do that and be more environmentally friendly.
So how about aquaponics? What do you think of aquaponics? I've never met a vegan that's for it. I mean, what are your thoughts?
You would have to explain it more to me. I'm not really too sure about it.
Yeah, so aquaponics is, so people take, basically, I want you to think of a big aquarium, right? People use catfish or trout or tilapia. Those are kind of the most famous type of fish. And basically, you have a fish in a huge aquarium, and the waste they produce is pretty much, in all intents and purposes, it's like steroids for plants. You can grow plants anywhere in the world. They do it in Alaska. They do it in Africa. It's actually saving the third world countries in Africa right now. And essentially, they're able to take fish waste and you put it into a system where you put it into a raised bed filled with some kind of media, usually clay pebbles or some type of gravel, and you grow plants that way. It uses 95% less water than traditional farming, requires no inputs. The way I do it locally here is I also grow duckweed, and the duckweed I grow in another bed is my fish food. Duckweed is a super green. I'm sure you're familiar with it. And this is saving third world countries that have water restrictions. But it's not vegan because you have fish that poop.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's cool for third world countries and stuff, but
why not here? I mean, people use here all the time.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I would have to, learn more about it. But from what you're telling me so far, I mean, are you saying you basically use animals, but you just use their poop and...
Yeah, so I mean, I use animals lots of different ways. Obviously, I raise rabbits and I kill them and I eat them. I have catfish that I raise in big aquariums, and I use their poop to go into a bed, a media bed filled with plant products that I grow, whether that be bok choy, spinach, broccoli, kale. I grow that using their waste. And then whenever the fish get too big, or they have more fish are born, I can take the fish that are already fully grown, and I can kill them, and I can eat them, and I can make a poke bowl. I can do all this stuff with it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Doesn't require me to go anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, you can do what you got. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, man. But I just don't like personally. I just think using animals. I just don't think that's ever the right way. As far as if it's not necessary, like if you don't have to, I just don't think it's right to use animals.
But if you're buying your food at a grocery store, you're not using animals.
If you're buying plant-based, no,
yes.
Technically you're not using animals.
Really? Okay. How about are children animals?
Yes, I guess we're all animals, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you said that earlier, and I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. I think we're all animals.
So, I mean, we do know that, we do know that child enslavement's a huge problem, especially for coffee and quinoa and wheat. We know for a fact that those are the big industries that use a lot of child labor. I mean, I think that's kind of messed up.
Yeah, and I don't know like I'm not completely aware of like what fruits or vegetables or grains I buy, whether their child labor was involved or not.
I mean,
unless I buy
70%. I mean,
fair trade, or unless it's labeled on there, so I don't really know.
Well, even then, I mean, I doubt that's going to be. I mean, you can ask the company to be honest with you, but especially if you're getting food from outside the country, I don't know how well FDA labels are going to work. But you know what I mean? Like, so I guess I'm not trying to diss your lifestyle. I'm just trying to diss the system in general. You know what I mean? And we have to make decisions. We have to start making choices. I believe if we want to be in a system that's more environmentally okay. And I'm at the point looking at all the science and looking at the math. You know what I mean? Especially when we're talking about health. We can talk about how we can talk about the studies on how meat's a carcinogen, and then I can just show you how glyphosate is a carcinogen, and that's documented, and it's proof that's documented that we're putting on plants. You know what I mean? So it's like when we're having this conversation, I get the nuance of, well, I don't see it happening, therefore it's not. But I mean, you can only do that so long before, eventually you have to face the facts that the system that we're currently living in is unsustainable, and it's just going to end up killing us in the end. And that's where I come from, because I
agree. It sucks.
I think that's super important that we look at that. You know what I mean? And I feel like,
I think we have to get as close to plant-based as possible, and I encourage and I'm excited about any changes that we make towards that. And
what changes should we make? I brought up a couple of good ones.
I'm not that.
Well, what do you want to see done? Like, if you can see something done, let's if it was just you and me, right? And we can make a difference, and we can just come up with something right now, Like, that's why I'm talking to you, because you were on the other side.
Growing crops without killing animals. Like, we're so smart as a human species. Like, we can't come up with a way to produce food without harming animals. It just doesn't make sense to me.
We can. It just requires people to say no to the current system. It requires vegans and omnivores alike to say.
But vegan. Let's not just point at vegans. I mean, it's just the whole world. It's the whole.
Well, I mean, the only reason I say vegans, I don't know any. Like, Carnivores is a great example. Primal Health Edge is a great example. I've never actually talked to Tristan. He's been on a few live streams that I've been on, but never talked to him. But those guys, they don't buy their food from the grocery store. I don't buy meat products from animal products from the grocery store. So it's like the carnists I know personally, we don't go to the grocery store. So we're already good on that level. We're already done. You know what I mean? Like, that's a non-issue. But for vegans, I mean, it's almost insinuated that you kind of have to go to the store and get them. So I see carnivores. I see carnists actually making leaps and bounds ahead by growing their own stuff and rejecting the market altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could do that. Unfortunately, there's just no way. I can't do that, man. I wish I could. I can't grow garden here. I mean, or foods like.
So if I were to create, do you have room for an aquarium? If I were to create a small little, because I've been thinking about doing it.
I can get enough food.
Well, I mean, you can get all your herbs and stuff for sure. Maybe not all your food, but it's a start, right? Anything that's a start. And that's the thing. Like, what are you willing to? I'm asking you. You care about animals. Where are you willing to start? Like, what are you willing to start at? Like, what's the lowest level what's the biggest compromise you're willing to make as far as area and space-wise to grow just plant foods without animals? Like, what are you willing to do?
Yeah, I would consider having a few small plants in my house, but I'm still gonna have to go to the grocery store.
No, I get that, but what are you? I mean, is that something you're actually willing to do? Is it something you've thought about? Because you said you thought about all the different.
It depends how much it costs, and if it's gonna give me enough food for or some kind of system in my house in place to make it work.
I don't know. Because I've talked to people, and it seems like when I bring this up, it's almost like a burden to them. It's like, that's a burden. I mean, I like, for example, my aquaponics system costs $30 altogether. I did it myself. Some PVC pipe and some plastic buckets, and I'm able. And you can check my video out if you're interested. but I show you
Yeah,
the
dude,
food that I can make.
send me links to all the, anything you have regarding that. Send me that information.
But when I talk to vegans, it seems like it's a burden. Like, oh, or even composting. Like, you can compost inside your house, especially if you have plant products. You should be composting everything. I compost huge. I have over 200 gallons of compost that I compost. I make compost teas out of and stuff like that. But when I talk to vegans about this, they seem to, they seem to be like, it's almost like a burden to them to compost. It's almost like a burden to recycle. Not everyone, not all of them, but most of them. But I talk to Cardis, and they're all about composting. They're all about, or omnivores. All the garden co-ops I'm a part of, we don't have one vegan. We have a couple vegetarians, but or whatever that called. They eat eggs or something, but they don't eat dairy or whatever. But
dude, hold on 1 second. Yeah, I hear you. Hold on 1 second, dude. Can you call Bob or text Jenny and tell him we'll be there in a little bit?
Yeah, I already told him to call, but the food is being delivered.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, dude. I had to.
No, you're good. You're good.
Talk to my wife quick. Dude, I wish I was into that stuff more. I recycle and plastic home. Yeah, I'm open to learning more about stuff inside. If you want to send me that information.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I'm not saying you have to go become Farmer John here. I'm just, it
will be a little inconvenient, but sure, if it's worth doing, yeah,
Well, I'm just saying, words matter, and I get it. And here's the thing, and this is what I've never understood, right? Me personally, and I made a video about how bad is animal products really. I think that was the name of the video. But we're talking about these different topics, right? And I felt like if I was doing something and I said I'm doing it for the animals, I would be doing a lot more than I'm doing now, and I do a lot now. You know what I mean? But all I care about is sustainability. What happens when the price of this plant product, for example, gets too expensive for me? And it's happening. How heavily subsidized the plant agriculture is right now. We subsidized in 2018 in the United States of America under Donald Trump. We have subsidized plant agriculture more than we've subsidized oil. And that number isn't going to go down anytime soon. So eventually, the plant products that we all enjoy, we're going to be spending a lot more money on. So what's the option? If I care about sustainability, which I do, I've taken that burden on to make sure that I have the best quality, untampered, unchemical laced food possible. So if it's really about animals, I just feel like I don't know why I don't see more vegans, at least, even if you disagree and I'm an ethically horrible person, I don't understand why they're not taking Bill Mollison's, letter of reprimandum seriously, as far as why can't just 10% of us grow a little of the food? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be nice. I think I just put ethics ahead of sustainability, as far as I just don't think we should be treating animals any differently than how we would want to treat someone else, or how you would want to be treated, so using animals just to kill them and eat them, I would never do that to a human being. So I would want to find a way not to do that to animals first in that regard, before I cared so much about sustainability, I guess, maybe.
Sure. For example, I can tell you I don't like child abuse at all. I think it's horrible. And I think that's probably just based upon my training experience. I think child abuse is a horrible thing. And if I knew that there was a grocery store that was abusing children, I wouldn't go to that grocery store. I'm sure you're the same way. But if you say animal harm is so bad, you still go to the same grocery store that hangs animals by the rafters. So, and that's just that's just who I am. If this guy legitimately beat his child, I'm not giving him my business. If animal agriculture is so bad and killing animals' food is so bad, vegans shouldn't be going to these grocery stores that have pig heads and pig body parts hanging from the rafters. So I guess that's my biggest thing is we accept it to a point.
We accept it because we have to, because pretty much we almost, like you said, we have other choices as far as growing our own or whatever, but we also kind of want to change the system. So if we want more plant-based options, and we have to buy support that at the grocery stores till eventually maybe these stores change and just get plant foods, and then it becomes more it's fair trade or whatever. We're not child labor. So there's a lot of steps and a lot of things we still have to do to get there. And who knows, like we may never get to a perfect world, I guess. Right. I don't know.
Oh, I don't think we're going to get into a perfect world, but I agree with it. Here's the thing. Everything you just said is true. It has to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it starts with doing everything locally and doing it for yourself. I think that's where it starts. Because I feel like in the system that you're talking about, it just, you say there needs to be a change, but it's just not me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where the change is going to come from, but, it's not me. And then I hear, this isn't you. So I'm not saying this is you at all, but then you hear people saying, well, people, if you're not, like, for example, do you believe in reducitarianism at least? That term, do you think that's important? Or do you not follow that ideology?
I don't know much about it, but it was just basically like reducing your harm.
So this is a big vegan in-house argument. From what I've been told, like I said, you're the only vegan that's actually came on to talk to me. But reducitarianism is kind of like what Mayor Bloomberg's doing in your state of New York right now, called like Meatless Mondays. Have you heard of that in the school district? System?
Yeah. I was pretty excited about that. The New York City school district is going Meatless Mondays. Yeah,
so that would be reduced. Now, me personally, that scares the shit out of me, if I'm just being honest with you.
Okay.
And that's just because I believe in freedom, because I believe that vegans, if they had the option to take away my right to grow food, I feel like they would do it. And I don't think that's cool.
Well, I don't think vegans made that decision, but I don't know. But like,
well, no, it was done under a climate change initiative. But I mean, it had a lot of vegan, backing for sure. I mean, they had the marches in the streets and everything in New York.
But I mean, if you said that if it was slaves or something and people, and we said we're going to stop, abusing these slaves, or no more slavery on Mondays or something, you would be for
Well,
you would be for that, right? Like,
I think that's funny you say that, because you're supporting slavery now. No offense.
Oh well.
So yeah, when are you gonna stop, bro?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not aware. I'm not.
You know what I mean? Like, I can send you all the links, but like, I
don't know who's doing child labor. It's not something that I really know too much about, to tell you the truth. Like, I'm not sure if I buy rice that's child labor.
Well, I guarantee you, if it's from an Asian country or Thailand, I'm going to say 95% chance that absolutely there's tons of child labor that are involved in the making of that jasmine rice or whatever rice you eat.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I mean? So, but I agree. So I'm not saying that Meatless Mondays are a bad thing. I just don't think that, it should be forced upon. Because like I said, where I get my meat doesn't require me to, doesn't require any child labor, and I do it all locally. Like, it doesn't require me to even use gas. I don't have to go out in my car and go anywhere. It's all here.
Uh-huh.
I'm taking the grass that's already growing, and I'm using it for something other than just putting it in a landfill. And I'm using the waste products of that animal, and I'm making more crops, more food, for myself. So it's, like I said, it's all about how you look at it. But no, reducitarian is a good idea, though, right? Like, I don't eat all animals, but I hear a lot of vegans that say, well, we should convince people that they're on the standard American diet to eat, go one day without eating meat, right? If you were to do that, you know how much you would save? You know how many lives you would save? Like, but a lot of vegans say that's not, like, it's either all the way in or all the way out. And that's my question to you.
As much as I would love to see everyone go vegan, I kind of understand, like, human psychology. Like, I understand that most people aren't going to do it overnight. And for most people, small changes over time is going to be a lot better way to create lasting change, probably.
Well, honestly, I think you just leave the math, just like me. I think that if you have, if you take a group of, let's just say, honestly, let's be honest with ourselves. Let's take New York, because I think it's a great example. Let's take the fact that that school system on a general year probably affects, 2.2 million people easy, because your population is really
a lot,
right?
I think it's the largest school district.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
The country.
So just take 2 million children. Take 2 million times the schools in session, approximately 36 weeks. So just take it 30 weeks, right? 2 million children times 30. That's a lot of animal lives that's saved. You know what I mean? From a reducitarian standpoint. So I don't know why more vegans aren't on board with that kind of And that's what I'm saying.
'cause
I'm just showing pitfalls that
some of them have the abolitionist approach, which I understand. I understand that side of it, but at the end of the day, it's probably all going to happen gradually. So we have to accept those small changes, and I guess you can still preach a vegan message, but like when someone says they're going meatless Monday, don't put them down, but instead, acknowledge that they're doing a good thing, I guess.
No, I like to, I don't, I believe that you can do. I mean, there's many days where I don't. There are many days where I don't eat meat just because, I'm as an omnivore, I can do whatever I want, which is super nice. I don't feel like I have any restrictions, but I mean, I totally support anybody.
I don't feel like I have restrictions.
Well, I definitely don't feel like I have any restrictions, but I think it's cool either way. I guess my biggest thing, and what I guess at the end of the day, my question is to you. For somebody on your side of the aisle and for somebody on my side of the aisle, what do you think is the medium point? Because I mean, I respect you and I appreciate you, and like I said, I love your channel. I watch it whenever I can't. You haven't made a video in a couple of days, so I'm kind of wondering what's going on with that. But I think it's great. But my question is, at what point are we going to, when is the, at what point when are you going to finally say, okay, enough's enough? We got to do something. We got to do something real. You know what I mean? And I'd say that in regards to just big agriculture in general. Like, I don't think it's possible for the world to go vegan.
The world, no, probably not. I would like to see, factory farming, slaughterhouses shut down eventually. So dairy farms, just exploiting animals as far as that goes. And then really take it from there and really look to the way about the blue zones, maybe look more towards how they're doing things, but it's again, that's so much different because they're just
they eat a lot of blue zones, they live in that, they're in position in great crop zones. Okay, I don't think any of us would deny that. You take Hawaii, for example. Hawaii has 13 different crop zones within the mainland. You know what I mean? So they have their ability to grow lots of different variants of food is really impressive.
And there's so much more natural life over there.
It's a culture. I
don't like to use that word natural, though.
no, but you're right. Here's the thing: they have a culture and identity, and a lot of that's around food. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like they believe. They really believe that Hippocratic, your food, let your food be thy medicine. Like they believe that, they believe in sustainability. They believe in eating local. And if you look at even the Japanese culture, the Westerners have, caused a lot of health problems because, this eating in excess, this eating lots of fried food, processed food. I think that's the biggest detriment than anything else. But they have an identity around being sustainable. And I think that's why you see that their lifespans are so long. And even what they eat, everything is, wholly organic, if you want to use the word organic.
Right. Well, I like to see, like I said, factory farming and animal agriculture go away. And
how about plant agriculture?
Yeah, I want to see, a different way to where we can grow plants without.
Well, do you think petrochemicals are good or bad? I mean, I'll just ask you that. Are pesticides good, do you think?
No.
Are GMO, or are you okay with GMO, or do you think that there's an argument for GMO?
I would say I would be against GMO.
Okay. So, I think there's and don't be wrong, that's a huge thing to tackle. Only because it requires then the burden of food production to go on the average person.
What about lab-grown meat?
What do I think about lab-grown meat?
Yeah.
You want me to be honest with you?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's a waste. It's not sustainable. I mean, think about how much it would take for you to grow. I mean, think about it. Now. I raise, and I mean, I guess the only thing you have going for you is the sentience part. But even then, how much environmental destruction are you have to make for the kilowatts of electricity that has to run these meat, these labs? Labs require tons of permitting. They require, they're obviously going to be dealing with, biochemicals. The infrastructure costs. Like, I do all this outside without any electricity, or you know what I mean. So it's like I don't see the ethical. I don't see how it's ethical. I don't see how it. I mean, do you?
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, that's how I look at it. I look at it full spectrum, because I don't just see the final product and say, oh, this is good. Well, how did that final product get there?
Right. Dude, I got 5 minutes. I have to actually go meet someone for dinner. So I don't know what you want to do. This is awesome discussion if you want to continue one day.
Yeah, no, this was good.
But we could just, if you want to just finish it
yeah.
off.
I'll let you go ahead, and I'll let you say whatever.
How do you want to finish off the conversation, and then we could set something up for another time?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think it's great. I don't hope you don't think that I was beating up on you too bad. I think, like I said, I think I appreciate your insight, and I appreciate your honesty. I mean, overall, there's no doubt you care about animals and you want the best for animals. And honestly, that's nothing but honorable. I mean, I can't, you know what I mean? Like, there's no way I'm going to look at somebody and say, you're a bad person because you want to help the animals. I just think that there's different ways to go. I think there's different ways to go about it. And I feel like there's, I'm not asking everybody to grow their own food or anything, but I think that in order to make better choices, we have to look at everything holistically for what they are. I have to be able to say, yes, killing animals means that animals are going to suffer. Just like I feel like vegans have to say, by me going to the grocery store and buying plant products, I'm supporting the death of millions of animals and child slavery. You know what I mean? But we can work around it. We have two different sides of the spectrum. How do we mesh this together to be more productive? Yeah. So I'll send you some links, and please. Also, the one last thing I want you to do to think about is go to that. I don't know if you have a Apple phone or something, but go to your apps and look up Crop Swap, and I think that'll change your life.
Crop Swap, you said?
Yeah, Crop Swap. So basically, it's an app I have, and if you grow a garden, you put the produce that you've grown in your gardens, and you can either give it away for free, or you can. It's like Uber for gardeners. It's really cool. Oh, wow. So if somebody's in your general area that has a garden and they're putting stuff on there, especially in New York, there's tons of people that are on the app there. It's like Uber for gardeners. So take a look at that, and that's just one way we can change things in the future.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks, man. I'm an open-minded person. That's how I got to veganism, and so everything you said and all the links, send me all those links, and I'll look into everything. And yeah, I'm definitely open to doing whatever I can to, be better for the environment and the animals. So, but
sounds good, Nick. You're awesome, and I really appreciate you coming out, brother. Be safe.
Thank you. All right, man. I'll talk to you later. All right.
All right.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.